Hello, hello. All right, my name is Whitney Nicely, and I have Victoria Morris here with me again today. I will say that I am the broker for Whitney Buys Houses, and I'm the principal auctioneer and broker for Nicely Done Auctions. Before we get too far into this, though, I'm going to be on a panel tonight at the Knoxville Real Estate Investors Association. Holly McCrae is going to be there. She's the number one agent in Knoxville. Julie Anderson Thacker is going to be there. She is my real estate bestie. She does property management. And Jordan Reagan Wilkerson will be there. And she is my age, but her and her mom are a mother-daughter general contractor team, and they flip houses in North Knoxville. So we've got some pretty awesome women going to be at our meeting tonight. And Victoria, I know you'll be there. I think late, but you'll be there. Okay. And I get our flyer made up. So if you've seen me posting these, that's what this is about. And I am super excited to share the stage with these women. I'm getting a little tongue-tied this morning, but we'll work through that also. So Victoria, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
Yes. Good morning. I'm Victoria Morris, and I have been on here before. I think just last week or the week before, right, Whitney?
Last week, yes.
Yes, last week. So I'm feeling like a frequenter of this place, but I love it. It's so much fun. I am the owner of RV Realty, and we are a property investment company, and we invest in real estate. We do it a little differently than a lot of other people. Most people flip, but we buy and hold and rent. And we've only ever sold one house ever, and that was what made my decision to buy and hold. So that's what we do. We buy and hold property.
All right. And today, the title of this is how to manipulate the bank for more money, but how to do it legally, because a lot of people are going to think we're going in with big stacks and just filling up the money, right?
Yeah, we don't want that to happen for sure.
No, I promise IRS that's not what we're doing.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about how you learned how to manipulate the banks. Okay. I think that's a great phrase.
It is. It's a lot of fun. So I'm just going to start with my story and explain to you whatever even got me to the point of needing to do this, which if any of my bankers are out there listening to this, I'm not really meaning I'm manipulating you. I'm manipulating the money that you've given me.
But that's how the bankers make money, is to give you more money, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they know exactly what I'm doing. I mean, I go in and tell my story every time, and they get it. And so they want to give money. So what happened was I decided, we had bought property forever ago, like in 2002 through 2005. We were doing great with that. And then the market kind of went crazy everywhere, and we stopped buying houses. Well, then things kind of changed. And so we wanted to get back into that market, and we had a nice nest egg of money. But I was like, to put 20% down on every property that we buy means that I'm limited on how many houses I can buy unless I flip, and I don't want to flip. So how can I make this happen? How can I make it work to my benefit because the other thing is that when you put 20% down on every house and you deplete your nest egg, then you have what the banks call repayment ability. When they look at what you have no liquidity. All you might have is equity and some cash flow, but you have no repayment ability. And that's a big problem for banks. They need to see that you have a nest egg, and if anything happened, you lost your job, things went south, you could continue making payments on everything that you have. So there were two dilemmas there. First, I don't want to spend all my money because I don't want to spend all my money, period. And secondly, it's going to be a problem at some point with banks because I'm going to then not have repayment ability. So between those two dilemmas, I decided, how can we get over this little hurdle? So what we started doing was, you're going to have to follow me here, but what we started doing was buying property that was completely dilapidated. And we would pay cash for that property. And then we would pay cash for the renovation. And then once it was renovated, because it was so dilapidated, banks would then say, we will give you the appraised value, up to 80% of the appraised value of your property. Most banks only want to give you the purchase price of your property for 6 months to a year. So they gave me the appraised value of that money. Well, every property that we renovate, there's a ton of sweat equity in the property. So ultimately what that meant is if we could stay at 80% equity in a property, then we could get all of our money back.
Awesome.
So that's what we did over and over and over again. We would buy a house, we would renovate it. Maybe let's just use easy numbers. Let's say we put $80,000 into the house and it was worth $100,000. The bank would give me 80% of that. So they would give me $80,000 back and I would do it again,
right,
and again and again. And so this is a way to get out of using your own money. But here's the deal. You have to find, for banks to do that, that's kind of an out of the box option. That's not something, you're not going to call Wells Fargo or Citibank or Quicken, and you're just not going to get that. You have to do it with the small local community banks. That's who's going to do that for you. And here's the other thing that I've learned is that when you do that, you can go to those banks all day long and you can talk to people. And I've done this before and I get nowhere. It's like spinning my wheels. This is where networking comes into play. As soon as I start talking to people about what I need to do, they will connect me with a banker. And that banker is usually the president of the bank, some kind of, vice president of commercial lending, something like that. And they're a decision maker. And they've been pretty much allowed to approve loans up to a certain point. So then when I get in front of them and explain my plan, what I'm doing, our situation, that's when they're like, okay. And so then they'll loan us money. Now, I've also called banks and said, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And they shut me down immediately. So it's really, really important to have those connections. Because when I call and say, hey, Joe, this is Victoria, so-and-so told me to call you. All of a sudden, it's a whole different story, a whole different game. And we literally have been approved for millions that way. And it would not have happened if I just walked into the bank and said, hey, I need to talk to somebody about this.
Yeah. Hey, I need $1 million. Okay.
And of course, it's the relationship and you have to, bring banking to that bank and all of that fun stuff. But that's kind of how it works. And it's just another alternative, another option for people who are looking for money and maybe they just don't want to spend their nest egg. Maybe they feel like it's too big of a risk. The other thing we did was a line of credit. So when I mentioned line of credit, at least when I first heard the term, I thought, oh gosh, 25% interest credit card. That's the first thing I thought of. I'm not doing that. I'm not paying 25% interest. Well, what I found out is that some banks will loan two different types of lines of credit. They'll loan a secured line of credit and an unsecured line of credit. So the secured line, obviously, you have to have equity in something to be able to get that. And if you do, that's great. And if you don't, then there's an option, which is a little more difficult to get, called an unsecured line of credit. It's just an amount of money that they'll give you, but it's not those 25% interest rates. It's usually 4 to 6% that you're paying. And it's the repayment on it is just interest only. So it keeps your holding costs low when you're renovating. So
and it's only 4 to 6% on an unsecured loan?
Yeah, it's not high at all. It's not high at all. So one bank in town, they gave us $100,000 line of credit. And I think it's 5.5% interest, something like that. It is floating. It's, it's based on prime, so it's adjustable. But still, even if we max that line of credit out, our payments on them are so low because all we're paying is interest. So it keeps our holding costs low until we get final financing. And at that point, we pay it off. So it doesn't matter anymore. So that's kind of how that works. And it's just, it's manipulating the money that the banks give you to work in your favor. And my husband and I always say it's creating money out of thin air. That's what we're doing, is creating money out of thin air.
So let me ask you this. I bought a house and I took it subject to for $60,000.
Mm-hmm.
I put $40,000 in it. I didn't put any money down, so I didn't have to do the 20% down, but I did put $40,000 into the house to fix it and all this stuff. Well, it appraised at $140,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I could get a loan for $140,000, which would cash out my subject to deal at $60,000. It would give me my $40,000 back. And even if I was at 80%, I would still get some money. So I'd actually make money.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can't get $140,000. Most banks won't give you more than 80% of $140,000. So if it appraises at $140,000, you would get, let me get my trusty calculator out. $140,000.
What is that? Like $120,000 or something?
Yeah, it's like $112,000 is what you could get. Okay. So you could get $112,000, And the way that they do the payments typically, like you just have to like talk to the banks and find out what their deal is. But these are commercial loans that you're getting. So they're not going to be, you're not talking 30-year fixed, 30-year amortized. It's not going to be that. So different banks offer different options. The standard option these days seems to be 5-year fixed at, around 5 to 6% interest. And it's usually amortized over between 15 and 20 years. That's the standard product across the market with most banks. The best product we found is 10-year fixed, 25-year AM at a 5% interest rate. And so that's the bank we use the most, is that bank.
Do you have like a formula that you go through, like an Excel spreadsheet? And you don't have to share this or anything, but do you have something that you can regularly put in, this is what it's going to be, and then see, if you want more monthly cash flow, maybe you go with a different bank. If you want more upfront, maybe you go with bank B. If you want, a longer term, do you have a way to just program that in so you can see it immediately? Or do you just always go with the bank that you like?
So it seems like our best terms are with one bank. It's that 10-year, it's the best interest rate, the longest amortized term, the best loan to value, everything. They just have the best everything. So nobody really so far has been able to beat them. So we probably work with 10 different banks in town, but in reality, now that we've found this bank, this is who we work with solely, just because they have the best products and they're fast and they're good. And that's really what you're on the search for. When you start using banks, you're just, looking for the best bank you can find.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about the amortization. So if you have, what is better, 20 or 25 years, and why? What does that do?
So it just depends on your model and your plan. So amortization basically means, so if you have a loan that's amortized over 10 years, that means they take the amount of the loan and basically divide it over 10 years so that it's paid off on the 10th year. If it's amortized over 25 years, then they take that amount and divide it over 25 years. So what is your goal? Do you care about cash flow? If you don't care so much about cash flow, then a lower amortization is better for you. Maybe even if you cared nothing at all about cash flow, to get it just to break even. So you weren't taking any out-of-pocket money to pay for it, but all of the money, extra money that you had was going into it. Now, our plan is totally different. Our goal is to cash flow, maximize cash flow. So we am it for the longest term possible on purpose. Our goal isn't to take 25 years to pay it off, but we am it over 25 years on purpose to get that cash flow high. And then once we collect the cash flow, then we determine which loan we want to pay off. We'll just collect that and collect it until we have enough to pay something off.
Do you have, I guess that is kind of the plan, do you have a plan to pay extra per month or make an extra payment per year so that you pay off your loan early? Or
I'll talk about that. I also want to mention to you this. This is also our strategy. If you am it over 10 years, let's say, and let's just say something happens, you lose your job, the market crashes, whatever that might be, you have a high payment.
yes,
If you am it over 25 years and something happens, you have more flexibility.
yes,
So I always explain that to the banks. I say, I understand you're trying to be risk averse by amming that payment as short as possible, but I'm trying to be risk averse by amming it for as long as possible, because that reduces my payment and it improves my capabilities of being able to pay it off. If something happened, I could make those payments still. So keep that.
When I talk to owner financing sellers, I tell them that I need the longest term possible so I can have the smallest payment.
That's right.
But if I'm collecting double, I will send you more money.
Yeah.
Because it helps me to send you more money. It doesn't help me to get a bigger payment and have a bigger, bait on the line.
Yeah.
It helps me to have a lower payment so I can send more money at my disposal.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly the game. And that's what we do. On average, our house's cash flow, this is after vacancy, management, maintenance, mortgage, taxes, insurance, all of that. After we pay everything, our average cash flow per property is about $250. So if you take that $250, we're not really doing anything with it. So we keep it and then we analyze our situation. which loans are about to turn from fixed to adjustable. Because in the beginning, some of our mortgages were just 5-year fixed, and we don't like that risk. So we save all of that. And then, once that term expires, maybe we'll pay that loan off. And then, of course, we collect all. It's just, it's, what do you call it? It's not compounding, but when you paid something off and then you can take that money and put it towards something else. It's a Dave Ramsey concept. I can't remember the name of what it's called, but
I don't know, but if more Americans did that, we wouldn't get in so much trouble. You mean you can save money and pay off debts?
Oh,
what are you trying to tell me?
What a concept. Yeah.
Crazy.
But yeah, so that's kind of how that works. And it really is manipulating numbers and, borrowing money from a line of credit to buy a house, to create equity, which is essentially money out of thin air, and then turn around and pay that line of credit back once you get the financing. Try to find the best terms, absolutely best terms. I would say unless you plan to pay it off, don't ever use like a 3-year fixed. Those are just, before you know it, it's adjustable. And that's just not something you want to deal with if you can help it.
Now, how many houses did you buy last year?
21.
21.
We got 21.
And so if on average they are $250 a month, then you can knock down some serious payments.
Yeah, definitely. We have some overhead. We do marketing. We buy signs. I have an assistant that I pay. She pretty much works full time. So we have some overhead. And to us, it's worth it to have those overhead costs. But, aside from that, everything else, my husband works, and we don't really need any of the money from the real estate, and our business partner is the same way. So we just bank it all right now.
So it's a long-term strategy.
It is. Absolutely.
It's probably not anything they'd make a reality TV show over, because it would take so long before you actually became a millionaire, right?
Yeah, probably. Our ultimate goal really is, my husband, has a job. He works 40 hours a week with a W-2 pay stub, and that is absolutely fabulous. And one reason why banks love to give us money. So keep that in mind. If you have a W-2 pay stub and you're in a similar situation as me, it's a perfect scenario to get money from banks for real estate. But my husband doesn't want to have that job forever. He really does not want to be there forever. I mean, the corporate world is volatile. It's just always, am I going to get laid off? Do I have a job? Am I going to need to transfer? Do I have to move to another city? And we just don't like that feeling of volatility. So that's why we're doing what we're doing.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
My husband has a corporate job too, and he would love to just work in real estate all the time. But like you said, I need his W-2.
I know.
Okay. I'm out here doing my own little thing, and I make pretty good money at it, but it's nothing like a W-2 when you go into a bank.
Absolutely. W-2s are critical.
We like to buy apartment complexes, and that W-2 is gold for multifamily stuff.
Absolutely. Every time. Mm-hmm.
I had another question and I lost it.
I will tell you this. So there's 2 types. I just learned this recently. You're always learning. There's 2 types of adjustable rate mortgages. One of them is where it's, fixed up to a certain term, and then it's adjustable. And when it's adjustable, it's just simply, if prime rates are through the roof, then your mortgage is going to be through the roof, period. And that's not fun. The other option is another type of adjustable mortgage where there's a ceiling, there's a cap, and there's a floor on it. And then aside from that, this one bank that we use, they offer, once your fixed term is over, your interest rate is adjustable, but it can only go up 1% per year, no matter what prime is. So if we're at 5% right now, and our 10-year term is just expired, and we no longer have a fixed rate, and the 11th year, prime is, through the roof, it's 13%. Our mortgage interest rate will not go to 13%. It will go to 6%. And then the next year, it will go to 7%, and it adjusts on a yearly basis. So that creates a little bit more security when you're financing properties, even on a fixed term. It's like, okay, I can handle that 1% increase, and I have time to focus on getting those paid off, because it's only increased by 1%. So
when your 5-year term comes up, do you plan on rolling, maybe you say you have 10 banks, are you going to roll all of those over to this one bank, or are you going to kind of keep them spread out?
It's going to depend. There's going to be some negotiations. That's the other thing. Banks negotiate. So if they want your business, there will be some negotiations involved. So it'll be, what can you offer at this time? What are the options? What kind of closing fees? Because if we quote refinance is what we'll be doing at that point. If we do that, what kind of fees are involved and so forth. So if, the fees are high, the term isn't great, the rates aren't good, then we'll look elsewhere. But if there are no fees, the term is the same, the rates are the same, we'll probably just stay where we're at. Just depends on what the options are.
How did you learn all of this? I mean, is there a class that you can go to, or do you really just have to do trial and error and just go knock on some doors and figure it out?
Well, so I guess I have a little bit of an advantage. When I graduated college, I worked at Wells Fargo. So I became very familiar with the whole mortgage industry. And I did that for about 2 or 3 years. And so once I was finished working there, I just knew like that whole industry. Totally. I was able to, use the jargon and talk to the banks.
So wait a second, you had a job and you actually paid attention, and I'm sure you excelled at that job.
I did well at the job, yeah.
So that when you left the job, you would take some knowledge.
Absolutely.
With you. See, that's another thing that I think people are missing. They think they just go do their job and go back home. They don't realize that they could be bettering themselves and grasping stuff for their future. Absolutely. Even if you don't know what it's going to be, Absolutely. You can learn stuff.
Hindsight's 20/20. What I have at that point in my life, I just graduated college. I got a job at Wells Fargo. I was so excited. In a million years, would I have ever imagined, fast forward 15 years, this was going to be my life? No. My goal was to climb the corporate ladder, be the CEO of some major company, whatever. It was not to work for myself, buy real estate. No. Now I can't imagine it any other way. Yeah. But no way. I mean, it's amazing. Hindsight is 20/20.
You have an assistant with you today. Isn't that part of the perks of working for yourself?
Absolutely. My daughter is sick and she's home with me today.
You probably couldn't do that if you were climbing the corporate ladder.
No. Craziest idea I ever had. I don't know why I ever thought that was a good one.
Well, because when you're in college, that's what they train you for.
That's right. That's what you're taught to believe is the best.
Yes.
Yeah.
Never once did any of my professors say, create your own company. Go get an LLC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, best thing ever.
The safest thing, they tell you, is to work for somebody else, which is dumb.
And it's not safe.
No, it's not. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
Well, side tangent, sorry. I love real estate, though. It's so flexible. I was in Georgia a couple weeks ago. My husband lives in Georgia, and I bought a house. I got a contract to buy a house on a Friday morning, and by Friday afternoon, I had an application for somebody to buy the house from me while I was in Georgia, and the house is in Tennessee. So you cannot do that.
Wow.
A regular 9 to 5.
No, that's awesome.
You cannot do that. And I mean, I've been buying houses for 3 years, so I didn't do that on the first get up and go.
Yeah.
But it was still pretty exciting.
It is amazing. That's amazing. And once you get into this and that kind of stuff starts happening, it's so much fun. Oh
yes,
my gosh.
It is.
Yeah. You just never know what's going to happen.
That's part of what I want to say tonight at the investors meeting is that I tell people the best advice I can give you is to keep going.
Yeah.
Because those first, 6 are awful, and you are just learning so much, and you cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, it's got to be there because people keep telling you that it's there. But I could not see it for my first entire year. And I was doing some pretty cool stuff, but I couldn't see it because I was so bogged down in it.
Yeah, you were learning.
Now, 3 years later, and I'm on a panel teaching people how to do this.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'll tell you, the first house we ever renovated. So we bought 2 duplexes. Those were brand new, nice, awesome, and all that. Then we found this house, and the house was, it was literally like torn down to its 2x4 studs. The floors were just plywood floors. The ceilings, they smoked so bad in the house. The ceilings were like orange, like yellow orange with cigarette smoke. And we painted them, and that just bled right back through. So we had to prime them. And we did a lot of work ourselves. Our girls, we have twins, and they were not even a year old. We were dealing with that. Like, my husband would come home from work, and I would leave and go spend literally the entire evening into the wee hours of the morning painting them inside of the house. We did so much of it ourselves. It was such a challenge. Literally, that house was the last house we flipped for years. I was so burnt out by that house that it took us years to be willing to do it again.
So what flipped? What triggered it in your brain that you were ready to go again and at a different maybe strategy or different plan, or, I don't want to paint it until 2:00 in the morning.
Well, it's the whole time heals everything, for sure. Time heals everything. It was the years and years of, essentially those properties that we had made the mortgage payment to our house that we live in. So for years, essentially, we lived mortgage free. And then I said, I really, really, really want a new car, but I don't want to pay for it. And my husband said, we'll go buy a house. And I said, hey, that's
I love that answer.
Yeah. So, that's kind of how we do things. If we want something, now it's changed because we just buy houses all the time. But used to, if we wanted something, it was, we'll go buy a house to pay for it. And so that's what we would do, is buy a house to pay for a car, buy a house to do this, or buy a house to do that. So we didn't have to pay for it.
How did you get that nugget in your head, or in his head, that if I buy a house, I can do this? I mean, does he just think like that? He just processed that? Or because, most Americans don't think like that. When I tell people I buy houses, they're like, ooh.
We're really thrifty. You know what I mean? Like, we save more than we spend on a monthly basis. And we've always been that way. And so to part with money for us is a hard thing to do. And even, the car thing, our conversation was something like this. We could buy a house for what we can buy a car for. So why would we buy a car? Let's just go buy another house.
Yep.
So, it's just those types of decisions are difficult for us to buy things that are liabilities, not assets. They're just a hard decision for us. We've just always been that way.
Is that Dave Ramsey training too?
No, Dave Ramsey is great, but honestly, I don't follow him too very well, because if I did, I wouldn't have debt on every single house I own. So
yeah,
I think it's great for like a person who owns one house, has 2 cars, 2 kids, a dog.
Regular people, normal people.
Yeah. I think it's great for them, but for us, if we followed that, we would be nowhere close to where we are today. So it just doesn't work for us. The first thing we ever did that encouraged us to buy a house was we played the game cash flow.
I love cash flow.
I do too. We played that for probably 6 months, and then we said, we've got to buy a house. And that was when we went out and looked and started buying. And we still live by those. Even today, my husband will say, is that a doodad? Should you really buy that? and I even ask myself that sometimes. I'll be somewhere and I'll have something in my hands that I'm going to buy, and I'm like, this is a doodad, and in 6 months I'm going to probably have this in a yard sale for $5. So,
I cannot say, Jason and I play cash flow, but we do not ask those questions. We're like, yes, got it. So we are terrible. We were talking about that yesterday on the way home. Like, seriously, why do we have all this stuff?
Yeah.
We had another apartment complex.
Yeah. I'm a minimalist. I don't like I don't like clutter or anything like that. So to buy a bunch of stuff is not part of me, just who I am.
I'm trying to retrain myself.
It's hard. It's really hard. Ask yourself when you go to buy something, is this a doodad?
Yeah. Oh, well. All right. Well, do you have anything to end on with banks? Or any advice for new flippers or seasoned flippers on how to talk to bankers, how to get in the door? I know relationships will help, but still yet, if I'm in a new town and I don't know anybody, I just have to go out and start meeting some people and figure out my way in.
You know what? Go to a RIA meeting
Yep.
and talk to them and just find out who's bought properties. Probably 50% of the flippers, they have to finance. Go talk to the big flippers. they have financed properties. What banks do they use? Who can you talk to? Call a couple of big brokers in your town. Ask them who they use, because you know what? A lot of times people who are wanting conventional financing for mortgages, maybe they don't fit in that box. And so brokers have a handful of out-of-the-box banks that are usually small community local banks, and they can refer you to those people. So there are ways around that. And the thing that you have to remember is that when you do talk to these small local banks, you are absolutely every time going to be in front of a decision maker. So you have to know your stuff. You have to know what you're saying. You have to have a plan. Because if you go in front of them and you just kind of flop, you fail, they're not going to feel comfortable giving you money. So you have to be completely confident with your plan and what your level of execution is going to be and how it's all going to work. And when they see that, that's not actually a common thing. To be like, I've talked to so many property investors who will say, well, yeah, I bought this house because it was a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning, it was $100,000 house and $1,000 mortgage payment. That's considered 1-to-1, or a 5-year payoff plan. So a 5-year payoff plan, meaning, you buy a house for $20,000, and if you take your monthly rent payments and divide it by 5 years, if you can have it paid off in 5 years, then it's a good deal. So that's pretty much a calculation for most property investors. You kind of have to go deeper than that with banks. So some things that we do is, again, we factor in vacancy, maintenance, management, taxes, insurance, mortgage payment, everything. And then we still have to show a positive cash flow. And when we start talking those numbers and they're like, okay, so you're not just doing like a 5-year plan, or you're not just doing 1-to-1 ratios. No, we don't do that. We're much more conservative than that. Banks really like to see that. And they'll say, we don't usually talk to people who haven't, much figured out financially as you guys do. So they really, really like that. They like to see that you've spent a lot of time working on your numbers. You're going to stick to your numbers and you're going to analyze them, totally work with them. But that's who you need to get in front of, is just big decision makers of banks.
And small banks are everywhere.
Everywhere. There's 100 of them in Knoxville. There's got to be.
They're pretty much the heart and soul of the local economy. Absolutely. It's not Chase and Wells Fargo.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a reason, in the old days, the banks always had the best real estate and the biggest building. And there was a reason why. Mm-hmm. Because they were there and they were helping.
Absolutely.
They were making money, but,
yeah,
they're the foundation of the town.
That's right. It's funny, Fred and I have talked about it, and we're like, the small banks are the ones who've taken the bet on us. They're the ones who've taken the risk on us. And so because of that, when bigger banks are like, here, take our money, we're going to be like, we've got our banks. We're good to go. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. So, we built those relationships and want to keep them.
Absolutely. Keep them happy. Keep them coming in. Keep those houses and that money coming in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I thank you for being on here with me again today. And it was your second week, so maybe I should do back-to-back weeks. Julie did a back-to-back week, so
there you go.
That works for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me again. It's fun.
If people want to get in touch with you,
yes,
how can they do that?
Okay, so you can go to my Facebook page, which is RB Knoxville. You can search that out. And my email is victoria@rbknoxville.com. And if you reach out to me one of those two ways, I'll be glad to respond, and we can, I'll share my phone number at that point or whatever that might be, however we need to communicate.
One other thing you said earlier is that you have Bandit signs out.
Have what?
You have Bandit signs out to buy houses?
Yeah.
I do too.
Yay! Are you the yellow sign?
We can still be friends, right?
Are you the yellow sign in Knoxville? Do you know which one I'm talking about? Yeah.
Mine are all pink.
Okay. All right. Yeah. There's a yellow one that's like everywhere.
Everywhere. I know that phone number by heart. I'm like, stop it. Go away. I called him one day. This is a good story. Okay. So I am only on the east side of town. Okay. Like Asheville Highway, Rutledge Pike, Washington Pike. That's me. Okay. East side going towards Jefferson County, or just Jefferson. So I've got this corner down here at a red light, and I keep a sign down there. Not on all four corners, but I keep a sign down there. So I came home one weekend, and my sign was gone, and he had a sign on every corner, and I called him. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
I said, "You're on my corner."
I love that. That is awesome.
I was like, "This is terrible." I was like, "I got your signs, and you can come get them, but don't put any more on my corner."
Did you leave that voicemail, or did you talk to him?
I talked to him.
What did he say?
He was like, "Leave my signs where they are."
Really? Oh my gosh.
I was like, "Nah, dude. Stay on my turf."
That is
He
awesome.
was like, "I have signs all over Knoxville." I was like, "Yeah, and I leave them alone all over Knoxville."
But not on this corner. Let me give you the address so you know.
I ended up getting his address, and I dropped him off at his office. So I did not throw them away. They were not destroyed. He did not lose any money, and I'm sure he did not lose any deals. But I should have probably just called and said, "Okay, if you get any over here, I will pay you a finder's fee."
Well, I was going to say, we should probably, here's my networking ideas coming into place. Do you think that person can buy every deal they come across?
No.
And do you think every single deal that they come across fits inside of their box?
No.
So we need to talk to them.
I know. I messed up.
Yeah. No.
I was mad.
That's fine. I'll talk to him for us.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I keep calling back now. It's been like a year, though.
Oh, he probably won't even remember you then.
Oh, I'm sure he would. It was awful. I'm hugely embarrassed about it. And I don't know. I must have just been having a crazy day.
Yeah. Well, we all have those.
I should not admit that, but I do. You're on my corner.
I think it's hilarious.
So, whatever.
I might put that on my list of things to do this week, to call that guy and see if he has deals that he doesn't want, that he'd like to sell.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do. Make a friend, and then you can introduce me and be like, "Here's my non-crazy friend, Whitney."
I'm going to introduce you as some other name so he doesn't.
All right. Well, you have a good day. Tell your assistant I hope she feels better, and we'll talk again. Okay?
Sounds great. Have a great one too. And I can't wait to hear you tonight. It's going to be awesome.
Let me flash that again.
Yeah. Look at that beautiful flyer, everybody. Hold that up there for a second.
I am so excited about it.
Take a good look at that. Isn't that pretty? Did you create that?
Heck no.
No, heck no. It's really pretty. It looks good.
I buy houses, and I find people to buy the houses, okay? I don't do technology. I don't do creative stuff. I get a plan. I tell somebody, they do it. I go execute it.
There you go. There you go. Well, whoever did it did a great job.
Yes, I'm going to have her. I think Victor, who's the president of IREA, I think he's going to let me help on some more advertising for future meetings. So I'm going to use her again to make next month's as soon as I know who the speakers are.
Great.
Yep.
Tell your dog, hi, I hear him.
She's outside. She's hoping somebody will come let her in.
All right.
Well, thank you very much. And if you want me, my website is whitneynicely.com. And from there, you can go to my auction site. You can go to my real estate site. You can go to my blog, to coaching, anything you want to know. It's all whitneynicely.com. So thank you again, Victoria. And I'm going to sign us off now.
All right.